The definition of sex tech, when we're talking about sex tech, what we're really talking about is any technology designed to enhance intimacy. So if I break that down for you, we're looking at these two terms, so sexuality and technology, and how those two intersect. Sexuality encompasses a whole heap of things. That includes education, includes health, includes crime and violence reporting, sex crimes, gender identity, of course, pleasure, and intimacy in relationships. Now, how that intersects with technology is where it gets really interesting. We often think sex tech must be the future, it must be emerging technologies like virtual reality, like artificial intelligence, or what we call artificial intimacy now, augmented reality. But also sex tech encompasses general websites, apps, and haptic technology is another sexy one, using touch. But any sort of technology is a tool, right? So it doesn't have to be so out there. But if we want to get out there, here's a landscape of everything that encompasses the future of sex, and broken into these different sort of technology buckets. So we have remote sex, we have robots, obviously, immersive and virtual entertainment, and we have augmentation forms. In fact, a lot of sex tech, because it's so taboo, the funding does not come from investment areas like other businesses do. It often starts out on crowdfunding platforms, gathers some steam, and then consumers really help pop it up, and it keeps going. So this is sort of where I want to end the, I guess, surprise element for me. When I first started in this, I was looking at virtual reality, I was looking at porn, I was looking at robots, and a lot of that was male-dominated. In fact, that's where all the capital was, or is for the most part. 30% of sex tech is really run by women, but it is growing. And this women of sex tech community just so happened to be in New York, where I was based. And when I started doing this 3 years ago, there was about 30 of us in this women of sex tech community, all facing the same barriers: unable to open a bank account, unable to use an email provider, unable to advertise on social media, because it is a taboo industry, and the added dimension of being a woman talking about sex also adds a whole other layer. So yes, when I started, there was 30. There's now almost 200 women in this sex tech community globally, mostly concentrated in New York, but really it helps to be surrounded by a community and be able to battle the same things together. And I guess where I ended up after all this research and finding these women of sex tech and realizing sex tech was far broader than I ever thought, was the most vulnerable population, both to sexuality and technology, is young kids today. And so that's a big part of the focus of my research moving forward, is looking at how young kids are using technology, how they're using it to find out about sex, how they're using it to express themselves, how they're using it to be intimate with one another. And I think the most vulnerable population there is young women, and I think we need to be talking about sex a lot more to them in education. I talk to teenage girls about losing their FaceTime virginity, which is now a thing, and all sorts of different problems and issues they have around owning their bodies and their confidence and their self-esteem that, yeah, sure, we had them when I was growing up, but are a lot heavier now in an Instagram-laden, always-on, 24/7 accessible porn culture. So it's really heartening on the one hand to see young women developing this sex tech industry and making products for themselves, and very much focused on how female anatomy is different to men's. But it's also an incredibly dark time in terms of the education that we offer to young people, and especially young girls.